Now the Spigen Tough Armor has always been one of my go-to cases, and it's been like that for years, but did you guys know that Spigen redesigned parts of this case for the iPhone 11? They've added impact foam. The addition of impact foam is essentially another layer of protection for your iPhone, so when I update the scoring system for the iPhone 12s, there's a good chance that Spigen Tough Armor is going to rank even higher in my general top 10 list. Now, I don't think I've done a standalone Tough Armor review in years. I think the last Tough Armor review I did was this Tough Armor Tech. So, I figure why not? In short, if you're looking for a no-nonsense case, something that works, can take a drop, and has a kickstand, well, then definitely get the Spigen Tough Armor. At MobileReviewsEh, Monty and I base our reviews on actual usage, and this usage is broken down into four domains. Design, functionality, and protection are the domains that Monty and I just hammer on all the time, but there's also the time domain. And as I said before, I'm a Spigen Tough Armor connoisseur. About 14 videos ago, that was a phrase that I used. So here's a little Tough Armor history. Back when the iPhone 5s were a thing, Spigen made the Tough Armor from two materials, a TPU sleeve wrapped in a piece of polycarbonate. Now that general design hasn't changed in the last like 6 years. Now somewhere between the iPhone 6 and 6Ss, they came out with a variation of the Tough Armor called the Tough Armor Tech, which featured a fancier back, bigger corners, and a port cover. So it just made the entire product a little tougher. For the iPhone 7s, Spigen made the Tough Armor even tougher, as they made the bottom of the case a little thicker and had speaker cutouts that forced the sound to project forward instead of, through the bottom. They also removed the little nubs on the corner of the case to prevent the back from scratching, which was kind of odd. I think it was during this vintage that Spigen really started putting soft rubber coatings in all their darker cases. It didn't show up on the leather cases, but it definitely showed up on these gunmetal cases. And I think around this time, Spigen started integrating kickstands into the Tough Armor, though it wasn't available for every single case. Now along came the 8s and the 10s, and Spigen went back to the original speaker grill by projecting all the sound through the bottom. Actually, there was no projecting, it's just holes at the bottom. Kickstands became standard with the Tough Armor, and for the iPhone XS's, the design remained the same, with the exception of the camera cutout being a little tighter on the newer cases. And I can't find my Tough Armor for the XS, and so this last point I might actually be wrong, but I remember looking at it and being like, wow, that cutout is much smaller than before. So I could be wrong, I'm sorry, but that's what I remember. So along came the iPhone 11's, and Spigen almost wiped the entire slate clean with this updated Tough Armor. The most obvious addition is the impact foam, but with the memory foam, it removes this like impact web that Spigen claims to improve drop protection. The corners of the iPhone 11 Tough Armor version has 2 notches in them, so they're not as noticeable. Unlike the brutal corners on my Simply Carbon fiber case, the corners are slightly smaller, which allows the Tough Armor to sit in your palm with a smaller footprint. The iPhone 11 Tough Armor is thicker than the iPhone 10 and 10s versions, which makes sense because, well, there's more stuff in it. The case is covered with a soft rubber coating that's a little bit more aggressive than a coating used on the Spectre Studio Pro, and the fit of the iPhone is, as usual, fairly tight. The cases are very rigid, unlike that Simply Carbon fiber thing. The case will wear over time, as the matte finish on the TPU will wear off over time. Now when it comes to using my iPhone in this Tough Armor, nothing has really changed. The buttons kind of sit right flush against the edge of the case, so they don't really protrude out, but they are fairly large, which is kind of nice. The camera cutout on the iPhone 11 version has a shallower opening compared to some of these other cases where it's almost like 90 degrees. It's very, very sharp, and so that probably just helps with the flash. No one's going to notice it, but that's probably why it's there. Now, Spigen cases tend to be a little wider, and so the case edge has a nice shallow angle to it, so when you're gesturing around, well, it doesn't really get in the way. I'm using this Tough Armor with a Rhino Shield 3D impact screen protector, and like, it is tight. Like, there's no gap between the case and the screen protector. That's pretty cool. The only other notable functionality is something that I never use. It's this kickstand, which allows you to view your iPhone this way, but not this way. Now when it comes to protection, the impact foam, well, I think is a big add for the edges and for the back, but oddly enough, there's no impact foam in the corners, which is kind of where impact usually occurs. So, there's swaths of foam along all these parts, but not where the iPhone's gonna make the most contact. Apparently, a pocket of air in the corner is going to be tougher than the impact foam. That's my deduction from how Spigen's set this up. So that's all I got for this product. Again, it makes the top 10 list because it's a good, usable case that's tough, handles well, has an extra feature like the kickstand, and I normally wouldn't make a video like this, but because we're all sitting in isolation, I decided to do a deep dive on a lot of iPhone cases. So I think this one is going to be review number, this one's probably pushing 30 something, which is pretty crazy when I come to think about it. So many videos. This is part of my isolation video series where I'm going to entertain you between 12 and 1 every single day for 120 days since the start of this isolation pandemic thing. So first time watching my videos, I do encourage you to click subscribe. Second time watching my videos, I encourage you to keep watching and watching and watching. It's kind of all I got. Thanks for watching. I don't know if you guys can hear him, but like Monty is breathing so loudly. His eyes, he's so tired. I'm so tired. It's almost 11. And like, I'll fall asleep on me, puppy. Rock-a-bye, puppy, rock-a-bye, boo. We're all done reviewing, so go to sleep soon. Rock-a-bye, puppy, rock-a-bye, boo. When you wake up, we'll all be taking poos. You're a good boy. See ya! Move goal of 200%. My Apple Watch thinks I'm like the most active person now. I do a lot of CrossFit workouts and I never wear my Apple Watch, but I haven't done a CrossFit workout in a long time, and so I've been doing all my workouts with the Apple Watch on, and the Apple Watch is like, "You're doing great, keep up your move goal," which featured a fancier bark, ruff, 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 ruff.